Welcome back, everyone. Last week we started going through the newsletter. We did edition number 2. Now this week we're doing number 3. And so let's just get started. So this month was the month of October, so more of a fall theme. So for the painting I chose Staruka, not sure quite how to say that, viaduct. Now a viaduct is one of those like bridges that is made of either like mortar or like a cement or brick, and it has those high arches. Very cool looking bridge, and it's from Pennsylvania by Jasper Francis Cropsey, born 1823 I believe, died 1900, so around the time of the Victorian era. Of course he was not actually under the reign of Queen Victoria, he was rather in America. So this painting was from 1865, and he was just famous for his landscape paintings. The quote or poem, not really a poem, more of a quote, for this month that I chose was from The Great Gatsby, and it says, "Life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall," said Jordan, "and I guess it always will, no matter how old we get. It's a way of clearing out the old and making room for something new." Now, I haven't read The Great Gatsby. I probably should. It's one of those books everyone reads in high school, so I feel like I'm a little bit behind on that. But yeah, great quote about fall. Now, the first little section of the newsletter here is about an artist named John Bauer, who lived in Sweden, and he has a very sort of particular fairy tale vibe, I suppose. So the story is that his father moved from where did he move from? No, I didn't say. Anyways, I think it was from Norway, perhaps, or some other neighboring country. He moves to Sweden, starts a charcuterie business, marries one of the local girls, and raises a family of 4 kids. Now, the middle boy, John, he doesn't get on well at school. He's kind of just not really focused. He's always doodling. So his parents kind of, instead of getting mad at him, they kind of encourage that side of him and say, hey, like, why don't you go study art at the capital, I don't know, is it the capital city? Stockholm? It is, yeah. So at age 16, they kind of finance him to leave their town and go to the capital to study, and it works out well. So he gets very good, and he's sent out. I'm not sure who it is, whether it's a publisher. Yeah, a publisher, so private, not the government. But he's sent out by a publisher to go stay in Lapland, which is kind of a more wild area in the north of Sweden, and he meets there the Sami people, which are the kind of indigenous people to live in Sweden. You should look up pictures, actually. It's very, very interesting. They look indigenous, but they have lighter skin and blue eyes. It's very, very interesting. Anyways, he spends a lot of time hanging out with them there. And when he gets back, he draws a bunch of paintings, watercolors, illustrations, I think. And that kind of influences his style for the rest of his life. While he was alive, he also, his biggest contract that he was most known for was the illustrations he did for a fairy tale compilation that was kind of republished every so often, and it's called Among Gnomes and Trolls. So a lot of his paintings, I don't know if you have the newsletter pulled up in another, pull up another tab while you're listening to this, but yeah, it's very, very recognizable style for sure. Anyways, a tragic end. He decided to move his family to, I believe it was Stockholm, and only 500 meters from port, they kind of sailed there to move. The ship is capsized and sunk, and everyone dies. So kind of sad, but yeah, pretty cool artist, and definitely will not be forgotten. His style is very memorable, I suppose. Next section here, I have an article from, I think it's an anonymous guy. I'm not really too sure. His online name is Arctotherium. Not sure what that means. Anyways, he put out an article called "Murder as Measuring Stick," and his main thrust of the article is that people tend to interpret society as being barbaric and then moving over time generally towards a more fair, democratic, and safe society. But he points out that actually isn't unilaterally the case, right? There's actually been periods in human society where it's been safer. So he concludes essentially that murder is not a stable proxy for crime. So even though murder potentially has gone down over time, that doesn't mean society's been safe, gotten safer, right? There might have been a period in time where the murders were slightly higher, but it actually was a safer time to live. And he chalks that down to a few reasons. Perhaps it's improved medical care, obesity, wealth, and improved surveillance of forensic methods. So yeah, there's two sort of main takeaways. The first is that in Western Europe and the United States, both mid 20th century was several times safer than it is today, despite being younger, poorer, thinner, and having worse forensics. So nostalgia for a safer past is correct. And then several post-war European countries were about as criminal as modern Japan, while being much younger, poorer, and having worse forensics. So as far as I know, I think Japan's a very safe society, right? So yeah, kind of an interesting twist on how we think about history. There's been some discussion online recently as well about something called a high trust society, where you're allowed. It's fine to like let your kids go running around without supervision because there's no homeless people shooting up at the schoolyard, right? Like that kind of thing. Or you can leave your bags on the coffee table when you go to the bathroom, and no one's gonna take your laptop, right? That sort of thing. So yeah, pretty interesting. Sticking with the fairy tale / like Sweden theme, the song I picked for this month was called Hermanlieg, which is Sweden for the courting of the mountain troll. And it's a kind of a chant style song, I guess. Not chanting, but it's like a cappella, I guess. It's mostly voice. And it's in Swedish, so it's not in English, but it's about a female mountain troll who proposes to a young man, and despite her repeated advances, he spurns her on the grounds that she's not a Christian. And yeah, just a pretty interesting piece of history there that connects to John Bauer. Not exactly connects, but if you click on the YouTube video that I linked to the song, whoever uploaded it put the background image as one of John Bauer's paintings. So pretty cool. Lastly here, I have an article from Ted Gioia. I think I'm saying that last name right. I think it's Italian. Gioia. Anyways, he's talking about how, I mean, it's kind of cliche to say almost that like society has become like kind of degraded, and we see that in the art, right? I mean, the example that I used here is like the House of Medici in 600 years ago in Italy, right? There are these rich aristocrats that kind of ruled Italy, and they sponsored a lot of famous artists, right? So like they built a lot of basilicas and cathedrals, and they also financially supported Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Machiavelli, Galileo, and many more. So like those are big names. And the reason that those artists were able to do their work is because they didn't have to worry about, paying the bills, because these people were sponsoring them to work full time. And that led to them, pouring their heart and soul into their work and not having to have a split attention. And they were sort of maximizing for beauty. And nowadays it seems that because art has become privatized and kind of, not that I want to make a broad sweeping critique of capitalism, but kind of caught up in that capital machine, we're no longer maximizing for beauty. We're maximizing for distraction, addiction, efficiency, right? Things like that. It's, yeah, just, he calls it the TikTokization of culture, which is kind of a funny little phrase. But yeah, art is in a sad state compared to, the Renaissance or, yeah, other periods of history before ours. Then I have a couple essays in here as well. Conservative Atheists Don't Exist. Already talked about it on the channel. It's a few videos ago. You can go watch it. Kind of a provocative title. I understand. But anyways, then I also have another essay here called Scattered Meanings. It's just my reflections on reading Thomas Hardy's The Return of the Native, which has nothing to do with natives. Anyways, I didn't realize that, but yeah, it's a good book. So I didn't talk about it on the channel, but I do have a reel about it on my Instagram page, so I'm not going to talk about it now. Anyways, yeah, that's it. So thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to the newsletter. I got we'll talk about number 4. So this one is number 3. So number 4 we'll talk about next week. And then, yeah, number 5 coming out December 1st. So stay tuned for that.